All right. Testing. I can hear myself. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff. Today is Mental Health Mondays, which means I'm going over a mental health topic. Today, I thought it would be, I guess, useful information uh, to go over the top most common mental health disorders in our current society today. Uh, Thought that would be relevant information for a mental health Monday and kind of fun, kind of alright. To be honest, I think I kind of chose this topic when I was kind of half-assing it and was like, oh yeah, whatever, let's just write this down or whatever. So I got it all put together. It'll be a fairly fun topic or whatever. Um, Running a little late today too. What is it? 7:17. Yeah, I woke up early today, or woke up late today. Got out of the gym late today. Woke up from a nap late today. So I've just been late all day fucking long. So it is what it is. It's one of those run late, take it easy, kind of not feeling anything kind of days. So, but still though, I got some pretty good info for you guys. I got a whole thing set up that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it, get something useful out of it. It's not the most what's the word, uplifting of subject matter, so I'll try to keep it as uplifting as I can. But yeah, so we're gonna just run through what the DSM-5 is. I was actually thinking about doing a stream just on the DSM-5 because there's a lot of useful information in that guy. But we're gonna run through it just so you know what it is. A lot of times you'll be online arguing with somebody about something, and they'll be like, "Well, the definition in the DSM-5," and you're like, "Well, I don't know what that is." Well, now you know what the fuck it is. So we're gonna go through that. So if that ever happens to you, you know what the dupe person's talking about while they're trying to prove you wrong. Then we're gonna run through what the common types of mental disorders are, because there's a whole bunch of different types of mental disorders, and we're gonna run over what the most common ones are. What's this slide? Oh, this is statistics. Okay, run through a couple statistics, and then we're gonna go over our um. I got five top mental disorders, right? So let's go ahead and get started then. Since I showed up so fucking late and I'm dragging ass, let's just jump right in then. All right. So what is the DSM-5? Well, that is short for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health. And this is the latest edition of the American Psychiatric Association's professional reference book on mental health and brain-related conditions. For short, they call it the DSM-5, right? Diagnostics and Statistical Manual. The five is because it is the fifth iteration of the manual. They redo it every so often. This last time, it was redone. The DSM 5 TR is the latest edition that was published in 2022. So, here in maybe a few years, however many, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, they'll redo it and we'll have the DSM 6. They kind of go through and update the manual with new knowledge, new studies. Ooh, that was a burp. That was a fucking burp. God, that burp almost gave me heartburn. Yeesh. So, yeah, they'll go through and update it with the latest information available and then call it the DSM 6 or something to that effect. So, but what is the DSM 5? The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, often known as the DMS, is a reference book on mental health and brain related conditions and disorders. The American Psychiatric Association, APA, is responsible for the writing, editing, reviewing, and publishing of this book. The number 5 attached to the name of the DSM refers to the fifth and most recent edition of the book. I already kind of told you that. The DSM 5's original release date was May 20, 2013. The APA released a revised version of the fifth edition in March 2022. That version is known as the DSM 5 TR, with TR meaning text revision. Important note here: the DSM 5 and DSM 5 TR are medical reference books intended for experts and professionals. The content in these books is very technical, though people who aren't medical professionals may still find it interesting or educational. However, you shouldn't use either of these books as a substitute for seeing a trained, qualified mental health or medical provider. Additionally, the APA also publishes books that supplement the content in the DSM 5 Examples of these supplement publications include the DSM-5 Handbook to Differential Diagnosis and DSM-5 Clinical Cases. So that is important to know. I'm not reading from the DSM-5. I believe you have to order a DSM-5. I don't know where you do that. I'm sure you can go to the APA website, the American Psychiatric Association, and order a copy of the DSM-5. Maybe later in the stream we'll actually go over how to get one of those, because that would be kind of interesting to just have sitting on the bookshelf if you're intrigued by psychology and things like that. So what is the purpose of the DSM-5? Well, the first step in treating any health condition, physical or mental, is accurately diagnosing the condition. That's where the DSM-5 comes in. It provides clear, highly detailed definitions of mental health and brain-related conditions. It also provides details and examples of the signs and symptoms of those conditions. In addition to defining and explaining conditions, the DSM-5 organizes those conditions into groups. That would be like the type of mental disorders, which we're going to go over next. This makes it easier for healthcare providers to accurately diagnose conditions and tell them apart from conditions with similar signs and symptoms. So, how is it the content in the DSM-5 created? To create the DSM-5, the APA gathered more than 160 mental health care professionals from around the world, including psychiatrists, psychologists, and experts from many other professional fields. Hundreds of other professionals contributed and assisted as advisors on specific topics. The creation of the DSM-5 also involved field trials and tests. The DSM-5, the APA called on many of those involved in the initial DSM-5 release. In all, more than 200 professionals directly contributed to the DSM-5. So that's quite a bit. And yeah, this goes over sections and a whole bunch of the disorders. You can see how many there are. It's quite a bit. Oh, let's see. When will the APA publish their next edition? The APA doesn't publish editions of the DSM-5 on a regular schedule. Instead, they update the DSM-5 as necessary. Right. Okay. So you can see the history there. DSM-1, 1952. Number 2 was in 1968. Number 3 in the 1980. Then they had a revised version in 1987. Then number 4 came out in 94. Revised in 2000. 5 came out in 2013 and was revised in 2022. Oh, here we go. This will tell us where you get it. Yes, the DSM-5 is available for purchase in many bookstores and online stores. Oh, so you could probably maybe even just get one from Amazon. Maybe get one on your Kindle or whatever. Many public libraries also have a copy. While the DSM-5 and DSM-5-TR are available to the public in multiple ways, it's important to remember that the intended users of this book are medical professionals, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, book is extremely technical. You shouldn't use the DSM-5 as a substitute for medical or mental health professionals, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, sure, exactly. Okay, so anyways, there you go. You can probably get it. I bet if we went over to Amazon right now, you could probably find a version. Let's see if that actually works. Oh, really? Oh, hey, Adam, man. It's nice to see you again. Hope you're having a good day today, man. I'm kind of dragging a little bit of ass today, so I'm kind of late to the stream, but it's nice to see you. That's interesting to note, though, that the DSM 6 is currently being made. 2027, huh? Okay, interesting. Do you have a copy of the DSM 5? Let's see. There it is right there on Amazon. DSM 5 TR, a concise and comprehensive guide to psychiatric diagnosis based on the DSM 5 TR. Oh, that is a reference, desk reference. Okay. So there's an interactive workbook. And here is the 5th edition right there. Okay. Ooh. 120 for the paperback. Okay. 195 for the hardcover. I imagine those are probably some really, really big books. They got a lot of shit to cover inside of those books. So, but yeah, there you go. If you are intrigued and want to buy yourself a copy and have $100 to throw down on it. Oh, really? That's good to know. Yeah, I figured they would probably have a free copy somewhere, right? Just for reference sake. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, and Adamant says in the chat that you can also just get one for free on Google. So, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I would imagine something like this just for reference. And he's even got a link too. Oh, nice. What happens if I click? It does take me right there. Oh, look at that. I'm saving this. Man, I appreciate that. Animat coming in for the fucking win, dude. Let's Yeah, that'll be fun to read through. Yeah, I was actually thinking about doing a stream just on the DSM-5 because there's, yeah, 1,377 pages. That is a lot of information, man. You could have some pretty entertaining streams going through this and learning about various disorders. So, geesh, even just the credits is crazy. Look at that. Man, that is awesome. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for dropping the link. I didn't know you could actually do that. For some reason, whenever I watch other people's streams, I hear that you can't throw links down. So that was a very helpful link. Well, it's good to have you in chat. So if you hear anything, because I believe you're actually going for your psychology degree, aren't you? So you should probably know quite a bit about all of this, I would think, yeah? So that's good. We got a professional in the chat today. So if anything is wrong, he'll be able to let us know. Adamant will. He, she, they will be able to let us know. Okay. So that's what the DSM-5 is. And that link that Adamant just sent to me, I'll actually make sure I throw that down in the link below on YouTube video too. So you guys can have it too if you're intrigued. So you don't have to go spend the 169 bucks to go get yourself a nice hard copy of it. Nice hard copy would still look good in the bookshelf, but you'd show it off to your friends, say, I read that whole fucking thing. But, it's good to have in the meantime if you're interested in just reading it. So we're going to move on. Now you guys know where the definitions of these mental disorders come from, the DSM 5. That's pretty important to know. And now we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the most common types of mental health disorders, right? So I got a couple websites that I found. Most of the websites that I looked through kind of had more or less the exact same answers as far as common types of mental health disorders. But this one covers the top 7 or their most common 7. Then I have another one that has a slightly different variation of what the most common mental health disorders are. But we're just going to go through the different common types of mental disorders. So the first more common type is anxiety disorders. Many people experience some anxiety in their lives, but they find it comes and goes. Individuals who have anxiety disorders don't see their anxiety go away. Without treatment, an anxiety disorder can progress to the point that the individual feels anxious all the time. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental health illness in the United States, impacting an estimated 18% of the adult population. There are a whole lot of different types of anxiety disorders, right? That anxiety disorders itself is just kind of a category of disorders. You got generalized anxiety disorder, which we'll be covering today, panic disorder, OCD, which we'll be covering today, post traumatic stress disorder, which we'll be covering today, and social anxiety disorder. So I don't think we're covering that one. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, okay. It's something like the streamer basically says that you can't do, or they check the link or whatever. Okay, well, I actually haven't set up. I don't know how to set up bots, so which is a good thing. I'm very excited about that link. I'm excited to read that, so I appreciate you sending that. Uh, but aren't you in school for psychology, right? So this is like right in your wheelhouse. This is what you plan to be doing one day. Maybe one day you'll be rewriting the DSM-7 or something. So when you do, you'll still have to send me a free copy. All right. And then the second type is mood disorders. Mood disorders are mental illnesses that involve emotional challenges. Often, mood disorders cause intense feelings of joy, which would be considered mania, or sadness, like depression, that are very hard to manage. While many people have emotional ups and downs, individuals with a mood disorder find that these extreme emotional states can last for extended periods of time. And some of the more common mood disorders would be depression and bipolar disorder. We'll be covering those two today. And dysthymic disorder, which I don't know what that actually is. That'd be kind of uh, interesting to pull that up in the DSM-5. I don't know how to exactly go through that. We'll have to take a minute to run through that to see how you can pull stuff up in it. But third would be psychotic disorders. Psychotic disorders are severe mental illnesses that cause distorted thinking. Individuals under a psychosis episode frequently experience hallucinations or delusions, making them lose touch with reality. When a person loses touch with reality, they often start to distrust those around them and make decisions that put themselves or others in danger. As a result, people with psychotic disorders must get medication and treatment. Let's see, they don't have a list of varying mental disorders on that one or underneath that category. Fourth category is eating disorders. Eating disorders are a type of mental illness in which the relationship with food is distorted. These disorders seem to focus on food, but are actually often a result of deeper problems, such as feelings of control. Eating disorders are extremely serious and require professional intervention for treatment. It's estimated that 9% of the global population has some form of an eating disorder. So those are definitely a common one. We're not going to be running over any eating disorders today. Out of all the different web pages that I pulled up looking at what the most common disorders are, bulimia, nervosa, and anorexia were definitely up there. But I picked out five of the ones that occurred the most often throughout the various web pages that I was looking at. But binge eating, pica eating, oh, I don't know what that is, and rumination disorder. Huh, I wonder what that is. Rumination disorder. That's interesting. I am going to Google that real quick. See what rumination disorder is. Rumination syndrome is a condition in which someone repeatedly regurgitates. Oh, okay. The regurgitation food is then chewed again and swallowed or spit out. People with rumination syndrome don't try to regurgitate food. It happens without any effort. Oh, that's a bummer, man. Wow. So definitely different than bulimia or anorexia. Okay. Personality disorders is the fifth most common type of mental disorders. A personality disorder is a type of mental disorder in which the person has an unhealthy way of thinking, behaving, and functioning. Personality disorders require psychotherapy for treatment. Some of the most common personality disorders are borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. We kind of went over both of those last Monday when we went over the dark triad. Oh man, yeah, that's going to be quite a bit to write all of the criterias for the disorders from the DSM-5 in a notebook. Well, that's a good way to memorize them for sure. I find whenever I got a giant whole shit pot full of information that I need to write down, years and years and years ago, I started taking a lot of classes in like personal finance, um, any investing, things like that, and the amount of information that I had to suck in was like more than I thought I could handle. Same with just recently, I started doing coding classes and a lot of information there. And it always helped me to to read the information, write it down in a notebook, almost verbatim. I think it's actually, this is a style of note taking, if I believe. Like it's very specifically, um, oh man, I can't remember if I. Oh, hold on. I think I got it in my phone. It's a style of note taking that is supposed to help you with memorizing the material much better. Yeah, I remember the basic idea of what it looks like though. I'm just trying to give you the exact name of it. Um, and I got it right here in my phone somewhere. But yeah, the general idea: you read the information, write it down, almost verbatim. You make sure you get the majority of what you're reading written down, and then you write it down to its like bare minimum of bullet points, and then you that was first step, write it down. Two, write it down in your own words in a kind of like a form of bullet points. So this is like a summary of the information that you just learned. And then the third would be to teach it to somebody else, which I also know is a very common tactic. Believe they actually do that in the military. They teach you how to do something, then you have to turn to the guy next to you and teach them how to do it. I got so many books. Here it is. Let me see. Chapter. So, oh, it's not going to tell me. Bummer. Okay, let's see. Note Cambridge note. I think it was like Cambridge note taking, Calvin note taking, or something like that. Note. I'm just gonna wing this out there and see if this is Obsidian. Yeah, shoot, I don't remember the name of it. It was something to that effect. Cambridge note. Cambridge or Calvin note. Oh, this might be it. Note taking method. Sections. This could involve, I think this is it. It's called the Cambridge note taking method. Wow. Ooh, I can't believe I remember that. Man, it has been a fucking minute since I learned that too. The Cambridge note taking method involves dividing notes into different sections. This can involve starting a new page or section each lesson or might entail having different sections for grammar, vocabulary, useful phrases for conversation, useful phrases for writing, homework notes, and so on. Find out the subject lecture French so that you'll be prepared. Don't try to write down everything. Create a margin on your page so there's room to expand. Okay, so this is it. Oh, Cornell. There it is. Whew, all right. Yeah, the Cambridge note taking method was not what I was talking about. This is it right here. Cornell note taking, the best way to take notes explained. So if you're ever interested, look up Cornell notes or Cornell note taking. They even have a specific way to divide up your page when you're taking it. So this would be like the 70% areas where you write down as close to the real text as you can. This would be where you'd turn that text into bullet points, and then 5 to 7 lines summarize what you just learned in that page of notes. And then that would be what you teach to somebody else, right? So you tell them what this is, and then when they ask questions, you revert back to either the bullet points or this or that or the other thing, the 70% section of your page. And yeah, so that's a good way of taking notes that for me was very helpful. I don't know if that's why you want to write down the whole DSM-5 is for the sake of memorization, or if it would just be like a really fun, interesting way for you to, I mean, just a fun, interesting goal. But if that is helpful, if that's what you're doing it for from uh, memory purposes, then definitely check that out. And I have a pretty fucked memory anyway, so my memory is kind of I'm. Yeah, you'll notice when I'm talking, I'll like stop on certain words because I can't fucking remember for the life of me what the word is I'm trying to say. I do that constantly and still was able to remember a fuck ton of information using that Cornell system of taking notes. So that's really helpful if you're ever intrigued. Um, anyways, yeah, good luck with your goal though, because that's going to be quite a feat, man. 1,300 pages, like, oof, that is a lot of pages. But it would be worth it though. You would definitely remember a fuck ton of information. It'd be very useful in your line of work too. Yeah, I know, PewDiePie. Yeah, I can't remember. Well, you definitely can't remember names. I mean, your memory's even better than mine until I have to ask you for somebody's name. I'm pretty sure you forget my name most days. Okay, so yeah, and then dementia is the sixth type of personality disorder. Dementia is a broad term for a range of mental health illnesses that can cause a person to forget their past. In many cases, the memory loss can become so extreme that it makes it challenging for them to care for themselves. That would be like Alzheimer's disease. I remember learning this, and I was kind of blown away to learn this that dementia itself isn't actually like a singular disorder. It's a whole type of disorders. Like Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. Parkinson's, Huntington's, uh, Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. I haven't heard of that one. That's interesting. Uh, oh yeah, sure, for sure. No, I think so too, man. I mean, it always worked for me. I know there's some people who are much more visual learners, and so being able to see somebody enact something out is much more helpful to them. Like audio. There's people who are more audio. Oh, what's so? See, I can't remember the fucking word that I'm looking for. They have a preference for learning things, being told how to do things, and but then there's writers like myself who really likes to write and take down notes, and rewrite what I've learned, and in some cases rewrite it onto note cards. I got whole stack of note cards all over my office and my living room. Whenever I need to remember something, I just write it on note cards. So that's always been very helpful for me. Another burp. Okay. And then the last one they have here at alterbehavior.com is autism. I've definitely heard autism really coming up there, right? Like that's one that I run into pretty regularly if you're talking to people on the internet. If you're like terminally online or terminally on Reddit and you're talking with people, you'll get seems to be a whole lot of redditors with autism. Is all I got to say. So autism, also known as autism spectrum disorder, is a developmental condition often diagnosed at an early age. Signs of autism will present themselves very differently from patient to patient, but often include challenges with speech, social situations, and nonverbal communication. Some of the symptoms of autism can be lessened with psychotherapy treatment. Mental illnesses, okay, and then that's just kind of going on something. So there's 7 of the more common types of mental disorders. Hold on, gotta make a nasty human. Oh, so you're more of a visual learner. Okay, yeah. See what I mean? There's definitely people like you're saying, like yourself out there, who the have being shown how to do something is way more effective. Uh, I'm personally, yeah, more for the writing. That's what definitely helps me out a lot. More writing. Audio can be all right sometimes. I mean, visual is still good. It's better than nothing. But yeah, writing something down, just rewriting the information, burns it into my brain. Pretty effective. So yeah, but that's interesting. I mean, that's nice that you kind of got a mix of things going on there. I don't know if that makes it easier to learn or not. I guess it kind of depends on what kind of teachers you have in college. If they're more audio interested or, centered around audio or more centered around writing, whatever their deal is. So this website, WebMD, so everybody knows WebMD. That's like the first place you go whenever you have like a pinch in your side. You go there and they tell you your kidney's about to get shit out. Uh, that WebMD. They say that the more common types of mental illnesses, anxiety disorders, again is up there, mood disorders, psychotic disorders, eating disorders, and then they throw in impulse control and addiction disorders, which I was surprised I didn't see that on the last slide because yeah, that one is pretty common. People with impulse control disorders are unable to resist urges or impulses to perform acts that could be harmful to themselves or others. Pyromania, starting fires, kleptomania, which is stealing, and compulsive gambling are examples of impulse control. I forget that pyromania and kleptomania are a thing. Alcohol and drugs are common objects of addictions. Often, people with these disorders become so involved with the objects of their addictions that they begin to ignore responsibilities and relationships. Then you have your personality disorders, um, obsessive compulsive, post traumatic. Then stress response syndromes, formerly called adjustment disorders. Stress response syndromes occur when a person develops emotional or behavioral symptoms in response to a stressful event or situation. The stressors may include natural disasters such as an earthquake or tornado, events or crisis, such as a car accident or the diagnosis of a major illness, or interpersonal problems such as a divorce, death of a loved one, loss of a job, or a problem with substance abuse. They usually begin with 3 months of the event or within 3 months of the event or situation and end within 6 months after the stressor stops or is eliminated. Then you have dissociative disorders. People with these disorders suffer severe disturbances or changes in memory, consciousness, identity, and general awareness of themselves and their surroundings. These disorders are usually associated with overwhelming stress, which may be the result of traumatic events, accidents, or disasters that may be experienced or witnessed by the individual. Formerly called multiple personality disorder or split personality, and depersonalization disorder are example of dissociative disorders. Interesting. Okay. Factitious disorder. Factitious disorders are conditions in which a person knowingly and intentionally creates or complains of physical and or emotional symptoms in order to place the individual in a role of a patient or a person in need of help. So that's kind of like a hypochondriac. Interesting. Sexual and gender disorders. These include disorders that affect sexual desire, performance, and behavior. Sexual dysfunction, gender identity disorder, and the paraphilias are examples. Somatic symptom disorder. A person with a somatic symptom disorder, formerly known as a psychosomatic disorder or somatoform disorder, experiences physical symptoms of an illness or a pain with an excessive and disproportionate level of distress, regardless of whether or not a doctor can find a medical cause for the symptom. Oh, I've heard of that. And then tic disorders. That would be like, yeah, Tourette's syndrome. I heard why gambling can be so addictive. Even if we lose more than we win, our brain kind of addicts to intermittent behavior. Interesting. Yeah, I myself have never been a big gambler. Me and my girlfriend just went to a casino. Or, well, I guess we didn't really even go to the casino. We really didn't even feel like it. We just went to the horse races and bet on horse races. I've never been a huge gambler, to be honest. Like, I like playing cards. I like Texas Hold'em, but that's more of like a social thing. Like, if we're not playing for money, is when it's like most enjoyable, because you're just hanging out with the dudes, playing some cards or whatever, getting drunk. That's when it's fun for me, but I've never been a huge gambler. I know people who definitely gamble a lot. So I don't know if I would consider them having an addiction though, because they've never been to the point where they've actually like ruined their lives over it. So that one now, as far as actual like drug and alcohol addictions go, I got, you know, whole bunch of family that has that, know all different kinds of friends and family members that have been to rehab three, four, been to prison and rehab two, three, four times a piece in some cases. So I definitely understand that. And I'm definitely aware that gambling can get that nasty too. But for me personally, because I don't really have an issue with it, I've never felt um, I guess, yeah, it's difficult for me to understand. But it's difficult for me to understand the drug and alcohol addictions too. If I didn't have people close to me that had them, I personally wouldn't probably wouldn't understand just how intense it gets and how crazy people can switch and change on it. Having firsthand experience helps me understand it a little bit more. But I myself have never been that way. I smoked cigarettes for 13 years. And I was a heavy 3 pack a day smoker and quit cold turkey. I quit a lot of other nastier things in my early 20s. I did my fair share of partying and not so good stuff for you and was able to quit all of it, without having to go to rehab. So, unlike a lot of my family members, I've never had that big of an issue with it. But because I've seen people who do, I totally understand how crazy it can get. Gambling is one that I've just never witnessed, don't have anybody close to me who's an addict. Same with like porn addiction. I hear a lot about it, and I guess again, you can understand. Well, it's definitely a thing, and people it fucks people up for sure. But I've never witnessed it, so I don't know what it even like really looks like or what's going through a person's head. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I have no idea what goes through a person's head when they have a gambling disorder or like a porn disorder or sex addiction or anything like that. So it's interesting though. That's why it's kind of fun to read on this type of stuff. It isn't so much like fun to read like all these horrible things that, people can have that's wrong with them and how it screws their life up. That's kind of depressing. But it is intriguing that these are things people can have. Like it's kind of like, whoa, it's so fucking wild that a person can have this disorder. And then reading, like split personality or dissociative identity disorder is a fucking crazy one. Like that's so wild that people can have that. Um, and it definitely makes you thankful, right? Whenever you have issues, you're like, woof, like it makes me feel good that my problems in life aren't that bad because that's a pretty intense problem to have in life. And my problems are like bullshit compared to that person's problems, right? So it's kind of like makes you thankful. So there's your most common types of mental disorders. We're gonna run through some quick statistics on mental disorders, which was kind of the basis for why I wanted to do this because mental disorders are a pretty big problem in our society. There's a lot of people that are affected by them, and as Adamant very well knows, you're jumping into that area of study, for a reason because it's not going away anytime soon. You're gonna have a lot of job security in that particular whatever job you decide to go do with a degree in psychology. I would imagine, the way things seem like they're looking is you're going to have a lot of jobs, more and more job security in the future, right? So it's kind of a good idea to learn about that kind of stuff. But it's an issue in our society. So it's always good to learn about it. Um, and just understand just what these different disorders do, how they affect the person. To me, it's just very interesting stuff, right? So, yeah, hopefully it is for anybody well, if anybody's watching this video this far into it, you probably agree with me, right? So let's jump into some statistics. So millions of people are affected by mental illness each year. Across the country, many people, just like you, work, perform, create, compete, laugh, love, and inspire every day. You being a person with a mental disorder, right? That's a you are not alone thing. So, you know. Oh, so this is the gambling one, huh? Okay. It was a test made with mouses. The scientists were trying to check how the mouses would interact to patterns. They would let the mouse be thirsty, and after the mouse started doing what he was supposed to do, the scientists would use water as a reward. The mouse reacted well to simple patterns, each three equal movements. The reward was given. But when it started to get random, the moment they would give water to the mouse, the more time they made the mouse wait, the more crazy and despaired. I mean, I'm assuming you mean like, yeah, despair, desperate, he would become. Then, after 1,000 equal movements, the mouse was still trying to get the reward. Oh, wow. That's pretty interesting. So, yeah, it's like you're addicted to intermittent behavior, basically. Like you're addicted to a pattern of behavior, kind of. Hmm. That's kind of crazy. Well, I've always thought like, I don't know. Okay, this is my own hypothesis. All right. So I'm not Mr. Psychology here. I don't know a lot about, like, particularly when it comes to addictions. Like I said, like, I have family and I've experienced, I've seen what they go through, but that's the amount, most experience I got. I haven't done a lot of reading on the particular subject or anything like that. That's a very interesting study, though. Thanks for sharing that with me. And I kind of have a, I guess, what would you say, a very uneducated hypothesis, just based off of like, uh what's the word I'm looking for? Observing the people in my life that have addictions. Because I got two or three people that are really close to me in my immediate family that have issues with addictions, and I can analyze or I just observe their behavior and kind of compare it to my own, being somebody who's never had an issue with anything. I mean, again, like I said, quit smoking cigarettes. At one point I smoked um ice, methamphetamine habitually for about 2 years straight. And when it was time to quit, I guess at some point I just said, fuck, dude, like I need to quit doing this. And then I was able to quit doing it. And that's, so what I'm trying to illustrate is like I don't have a very addictive personality. I've never had, right? So I kind of compare myself to my family, people I know that have addictive personalities or they have addictions. I just call it an addictive personality. I don't even know if that's the proper way to discuss it, but that's the way they talk about it. They have an addictive personality, is what they say. And I've noticed that people with addictive personalities, or at least the people I know with addictive personalities, okay, are very, very good at developing habits and sticking to those habits almost to the point. And this would be kind of what you're talking about, I would think. I think, unless I'm reading it wrong, I could just be fucking it up because I'm stupid. But I think that this is similar to what you're talking about with the mice, this intermittent pattern of behavior or being addicted to patterns of behavior. They have a really easy time establishing patterns in their life, like waking up at a specific time, having a specific morning routine, eating specific things throughout the day. I have a buddy who's, very health focused nowadays, but before he was health focused, he was heavy into ice and heavy into, what's the one that terrifies everybody? People overdose on it all the time. It's shit. It starts with an F. For some reason, I want to say formaldehyde, and I know like people used to do that, but this isn't that. This is fentanyl. It doesn't start with an F. It starts with a PH. But fentanyl. He was into that. He went to prison for 4 years, came out, got healthy, and now he's a total health nut freak. And I say that in a good way, right? He's but the dude, his nutrition routine is so fucking crazy, and his diet is so fucking crazy, and the way he works out, man, and it's just everything's on a schedule. He's in bed 10 p.m. sharp, up in the morning 5 a.m. sharp, at the gym. He's just got it down pat, and it was easy, at least what he says, easy to develop those patterns of behavior. Whereas for me, I have such a hard time establishing a pattern of behavior or establishing a habit. Yeah. Hey, that's okay. I definitely wasn't you hear me talk, man. I'm not the one who's gonna judge anybody for how they speak, right? You hear the uhs and the ums, You only don't hear the random burps because I mute those out. But yeah, that's what it's like to have a conversation with me. So I can't give you too much shit for that. But yeah, no, anyway, yeah, this guy, it's easy for him to develop those patterns and to what's the word? See, I can't even remember the fucking word. It's easy for him habits. Jesus Christ, it's easy for him to develop those habits. Whereas for me, it's so fucking hard to develop a habit and develop a routine and stay on schedule. And I tried. I once had a little thing I'd do in my notebook. Where I just well, I don't want to get into it and turn it into a whole thing. But yeah, man, I tried very very hard to establish a certain routine throughout the day, and I could hit it and nail it for 190 days, like 200 days straight of doing this morning routine. And then the minute I stopped doing it, the minute I stopped like putting like a note on my fucking mirror, this is your morning routine, I just fall out of it so quick, so fast. Like it's like I didn't even try. Like I never even built up the habit. So I wonder if that's the same mechanism you're talking about with this experiment with your mice, right? Like there's some people who they're addicted to these intermittent behavior, they're addicted to patterns of behavior, and other people who just aren't. And when you're addicted to like patterns of behavior, yeah, you can get addicted to gambling, you could get addicted to sex, or you can get addicted to a lot of bad stuff, but it's also easier for you to develop habits, good habits as well. Whereas those of us who might not have the quote unquote addictive personality, we're just kind of fucked, right? Like we're as far as like developing good habits go, we don't develop bad habits. Again, I smoked 3 packs a day for almost 13 years, and when it was time to quit, I just quit and cold turkey. And but when it comes to developing good patterns of behavior, I'm fucked on that. So I don't know. I would just be interested to know if that's the same thing you're talking about, if I'm completely misreading it. Either way, that is a very interesting study. Like that is, I bet it's fun to sit in those psychology classes and learn about shit like that, right? Because that is really intriguing type stuff. I mean, obviously, I feel like it's interesting. Otherwise, I wouldn't spend 2 hours of every Monday reading about it. You know what I mean? So, but that is a really cool experiment. So, anyways, yeah, across millions of people all around our society are affected by mental health disorders. 22.8% of U.S. adults experienced mental illnesses in 2021. That's 57.8 million people. That's 1 in 5 adults. So that's quite a few adults. That just under a quarter of adults. 5.5 of U.S. adults experienced serious mental illness in 2021. That's 14.1 million people. This represents 1 in 20 adults. So that's serious mental illnesses versus mental illnesses. Got another burp. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't know the Big Five said that. No, I've definitely heard of the Big Five, though. I actually want to do a stream on the Big Five. I just got doing, it's definitely not the same as the Big Five, but in the same vein. I wanted to hit a lot of the different personality tests, do like probably one big personality test each month. And so next month, the very first Monday of next month, I'm going to be doing a stream on the Myers-Briggs test, which I'm aware nowadays I think there's a lot of heavy criticisms towards, but it's still like a really fun test to take. But I figured that's where I would start with personality tests, right? And yeah, and then yeah, exactly. And so then yeah, the big five is going to be in there, and then there's another personality test that's huge, right? Is like the oceanic or the ocean test or something to that effect? I mean, there's a few personality tests, and I wanted to kind of hit all three or all of the main big ones. But the big five obviously is definitely, I want to do a whole 2 hour stream on that because the big five is really cool. A lot of useful information there, really fun to take the test and learn about yourself. But yeah, I wasn't aware. It says people being disciplined and organized can be genetic, which is very interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. But yeah, the Big Five is fucking awesome. I would love to do a stream. I'm gonna do a stream, probably not next month, but the month after. Just do 2 hours running through the Big Five. Next month, I'm gonna do the Myers Briggs. I know it's not called the personality test. It's like the Myers Briggs type indicator. That's what it's called, the Myers Briggs type indicator. I don't know what your personal thoughts are on that, but I know nowadays it's got a lot of heavy criticism. I know because I just got done reading about it and putting all the slides together for it. So I got about 3 or 4 slides full of various criticisms that a lot of different psychologists have against that particular test. It seems like the Big Five is much more of your standard or more accepted personality test as far as that goes. But still, yeah, the Big Five is really cool. Um, okay, yeah. 16.5% of kids in the US between ages 6 and 17 experienced a mental health disorder in 2016. That's 7.7 million people. Uh, oh, it's the same. Okay. Well, I didn't know that. Yeah, ocean is the same as the big five. Ah, that makes sense. Okay, that's where I heard of ocean then. So I wasn't just making it up. That's the good news. For a minute there, I was like, am I just making shit up? Like, there's nothing called the ocean? But there is. Yeah, I didn't know they were the same though. That's good to know. I appreciate you for letting me know that. Thank you. There's other ones too though, right? Like outside of the big five or ocean, and the Myers Briggs type indicator. There's other big personality tests. I don't know the name of them though. Those are the two big ones that I'm aware of that I've taken. But I'm not aware of what the other ones are. But I'm sure there's several of them. From what I know, though, that the Big Five is like considered the best, right? Or that's what I know. I don't know. I could be wrong on that though. Um, And then 7.6 of U.S. adults experience a co-occurring substance use disorder and mental illness in 2021. So that's about a little over 19 million people. Um, Annual prevalence of mental illnesses among U.S. adults by demographic group. For Asians, we got about 16.4%. A non-Hispanic, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, cutie pie, that's you, 18%. This is annual prevalence, so about 18% of U.S. adults that are Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander have mental disorders. Black or African American, 21%. Hispanic or Latino, 20%. White is 23.9%. So I'm definitely crazier than you, cutie pie. Native American Indian or Alaskan Native is 26%. Mixed and multiracial is 34.9%. Wow, I wonder why that number is so big. 34.9. And then lesbian, gay, or bisexual, 50.2%. Annual prevalence amongst U.S. adults by condition, less than 1% of the population has schizophrenia. 1.2 have obsessive compulsive disorder. We're going to kind of go over these numbers a little bit too. Borderline personality disorder, 1.4. Bipolar, 2.8. Post-traumatic stress disorder is 3.6%. Major depressive episodes is 8.3%. And then anxiety disorders, 19%. Wow, that's a much bigger number than the rest. That really jumps up there when you hit anxiety disorders. Oh, yeah. Okay. The four personality type, sanguine. Okay. I know that one. I've heard of that. I've never taken that. I don't know what that test looks like. And I've definitely never, um, but I knew I had a buddy who was telling me about it because I guess he was like a sanguine or whatever. And he was telling me about that personality test. I've never taken that though. Is that a pretty good one? Because that one's new to me. That would be fun to do a 2 hour stream on that though. I've definitely done the Myers Briggs 16 personality type, the NIFP, INTP, INFJ, or whatever the heck ever. Yeah, but that one's fun. I do enjoy that one. Like that one was a blast to take. So was the Big Five, but never heard of the four personality types right there. I'm gonna have to look into that so I can do a stream on that. That would be a blast to do. So, yeah, we're done over here with statistics. We will jump back into some of the statistics when we hit certain disorders, but now we're going to go ahead and jump into the specific top 5 mental disorders that are considered the most common mental disorders, or some of the most common. There's other ones in that list. Again, bulimia and anorexia were pretty high up on the list of common mental disorders when I was looking it up. But these were the 5 that I picked that were most commonly listed amongst all the different web pages that I went to. And those are in no particular order: depression, post traumatic stress disorder, general anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder. So those are the 5 most common mental disorders that we're going to go over today. There was like another 5 that I thought maybe I'd save for another stream later on down the road if this is an enjoyable stream. If people enjoy it and it gets some hits on YouTube, then I'll do a part 2 to this and go over another top 5 most common disorders. So this isn't like the top 5 most common mental disorders. This is like, think of the 5 that I picked out of the top 10, right? It's kind of like that, more similar to that than it is like the 100% top 5. So the first one we're going to hit is major depression. That's going to be the first one. So major depression is one of the most common mental health disorders in the United States, as we're aware, or that's why I'm talking about it. For some individuals, major depression can result in severe impairments that interfere with or limit one's ability to carry out major life activities. There's additional information there. So let's look at prevalence of major depressive episodes among adults. So figure 1 here shows the past year prevalence of major depressive episodes among U.S. adults age 18 or older. An estimated 21 million adults in the United States had at least one major depressive disorder. This number represents 8.3% of all U.S. adults. The prevalence of major depressive episode was higher among adult females, 10.3, compared to men, which was 6.2. The prevalence of adults with a major depressive episode was highest among individuals aged 18 to 25 at 18.6%. The prevalence of major depressive episodes was highest amongst those who report having multiple races, 13.9%. So past year prevalence, here's sex, overall, age broken into age, We see 18 to 25, then 26 and 50 plus is fairly low at 4.5. Then there it is split amongst race and race and ethnicity. Geez, balls. I don't know where I'm going, where I was trying to go with that. In 2021, that's 14.5 million U.S. adults age 18 or older had at least one major depressive episode. Let's see, in 2021, an estimated 61% of U.S. adults aged 18 or older with major depressive episode received treatment. Oh, okay, so that's a good statistic. At least over half of the people who have one have gotten help with it. Oh, in Brazil too. Oh, yeah, I forget. Yeah, you're down in Brazil. I don't know if you ever checked out the weird food episode that I did. But I definitely brought up your chicken hearts for sure. I definitely kind of threw those out there, more in a passing statement, but I'm definitely going to do another one of those streams and include the chicken hearts in there because I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, no, I think that one's a pretty common one around the world, if I'm not mistaken. Like major depression is a big deal for sure. I mean, as far as like the numbers go, right? I don't know how true that is. I haven't looked in every single specific country to know that. I've just read it. So, take it with a dose of salt, I suppose. Let's see. 74.8% of the people with one major depressive episode received treatment in the past year. Well, that's really good. And here it is in adolescence. You see where it's hitting 20% of adolescents. That's pretty crazy. That's a massive percentage. Almost 30% in young women. And this is between the ages of 12 and 17. So 30% of women between 12 and 17 report having at least one major depressive episode. That's craziness, man. That's intense. And then ages 16 to 17 is where that highest amount is. And again, the highest percentage is in people with two or more races. That's wild. I wonder what the point is to that. If they have any sort of causal statement to put down there, like why that is, if they know what the cause of that is. That's pretty crazy. So there are some statistics on depression. Let's read a little bit about it, and then I got a little YouTube video for us to watch on it as well. I got a couple YouTube sources to throw in, couple YouTube channels that I enjoy when it comes to learning about psychology. Another burp. Okay, so what is depression? The word depression can be misleading. Everyone has felt depressed at times over such challenging situations as a setback in one's career or the ending of an important relationship. For most people, the sadness is temporary. Clinical depression, major depressive disorder, is more than just a temporary feeling. It is relatively long lasting, can get worse over time, and significantly interferes with a person's daily activities. Depression is the most common mental health disorder after anxiety disorders. It affects 7% of adults in the U.S. in any given year, with a lifetime prevalence of 21% of all Americans. According to the World Health Organization, it is the leading cause of worldwide disability. Men and women may experience depression differently. Women are affected at twice the rate of men, while men with depression are more likely to die by suicide. There are also gender differences in the way symptoms are experienced. Oh, I didn't realize that this was something that was widely accepted. I remember reading about this years and years ago that psychologists were proposing that there were gender differences in the way that people experience major depression. I don't know why I have my sunglasses on in the house. Yeah, and I don't. At the time, it wasn't considered like a for sure thing. So now it sounds like they're more like accepting of that idea. I know it was the same thing with ADD. A lot of people were talking about the same with ADD because they were saying like ADD is most commonly observed in men, and then somebody came out and said, "Well, I think women have slightly different symptoms." And I don't know whatever came of that neither, if that's an accepted thing or if that kind of flew over too. But that's interesting to read that because it's been a long time since I've heard anybody say that. And I wasn't sure if that ever became a thing or not. I actually think about it from time to time. And I'm like, I wonder if I need to look that up and see if that ever became like a, a generally accepted way of thinking about it, right? For lack of a better term. So anyways, clinical depression can take several forms. This includes major depressive disorder, persistent depressive disorder. Oh, that's that dysthymia. Seasonal affective disorder, SAD, that's kind of okay. That's, not to, make a joke out of it, but that is kind of funny that you would have depression, seasonal affective disorder, sad. I'm just going to point that out. I thought it was humorous. All right, fuck me. And then postpartum depression. Major depressive disorder involves a consistently depressed mood or loss of interest or pleasure in normal activities for a period of at least 2 weeks. Variations of major depression, such as seasonal affective disorder and postpartum depression, may have specific causes and may involve slightly different treatments, such as light therapy for SAD. SAD is the seasonal affective disorder. I'm assuming that you're affected by like the season of the year. Is that what that is? I know postpartum is um postpartum depression. Let me just make sure I know what that is. Seasonal affective disorder. There it is. Seasonal affective disorder is a type of depression that occurs at the same time each year, often triggered by changes in seasons. Yeah, okay, so I got that right. Wow. And then postpartum, or am I thinking postnatal depression? Postpartum depression. There we go. I might be thinking of postnatal depression. Postpartum, the birth of a baby can start a variety. Yeah, okay, so that is that the same thing? Postpartum and postnatal depression after having a baby. Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was. Okay. Anyway, so there you go. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that can set off different types. The seasonal affective disorder, I didn't know that was a thing. That's interesting. All depressive disorders belong to the category of mental health conditions known as mood disorders. These disorders affect a person's mood, causing it to be consistently lower, depressive and related disorders, or sometimes lower and sometimes higher, which would be in bipolar disorders. A person with bipolar disorder may experience severe depression at times. The presence of depression with extreme mood swings or mania is usually a sign that the person has bipolar disorder, not a depressive disorder. There is hope for those who live with depression. Read about the many successful and notable people who have experienced this disorder in our post on living well with depression. I wonder if that's, yeah, famous people who have living with depression. Buzz Aldrin, the famous astronaut. Amanda Beard, the Olympic gold medalist. Oh, wow. Struggled with bulimia, self-cutting, and depression. Wow, that's intense. Terry Bradshaw, the Hall of Fame quarterback, diagnosed with clinical depression after going through a difficult divorce. Oh, that led to weight loss, insomnia, constant crying, and dependence on alcohol. Man, that's rough. Mel C. The stress from years of touring led to depression and an eating disorder for the former Spice Girl. Oh. At times, her depression was so severe that she could not get out of bed for days at a time. Jim Carrey. Oh, I did know that one. Jim Carrey, one of Hollywood's most successful actors. Carrey took antidepressants for a long time to manage his depression. Now he avoids all mind-altering substances and practices a form of mindfulness in his approach to life and acting. Just be in the moment and live now, because this is all there is, and enjoy now like a child and be your authentic self. Dick Cavett, the talk show host, I don't know who Dick Cavett is, has struggled with depression since his freshman year of college. And Leonard Cohen, Leonard Cohen, the singer-songwriter, often referred to as the godfather of gloom. Well, yeah, I guess that was a sign there you probably had some depressive issues. Struggled with severe depression for more than 40 years, trying treatment with antidepressants and psychotherapy and self-medicating with alcohol, drugs, and sex with no relief of symptoms. His depressions finally lifted when he embraced the simple life of a monk on a Buddhist retreat. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Leonard Cohen has a really good song. What is that called? He's got a couple interesting songs. He does a lot of gospel songs, but he's got a really good one that was on that movie Natural Born Killers that I always enjoyed. Uh, okay, if a person is misdiagnosed as having major depression and this person takes antidepressants, but actually this person has bipolar disorder, the antidepressant can worsen the bipolar symptoms. Oh, wow, that's pretty intense. Hmm. That's why it's such a big deal to differentiate between the two, then, yeah. Wow, that's pretty crazy. I wonder, well, I mean, yeah, I guess I don't exactly know how those drugs work. But see, that kind of shit is just that's so crazy that drugs work that way, right? Or that, well, that your brain, I guess, works that way. That you can take a drug for one thing and instead of like helping with the depression aspect of it, because that's, I guess, maybe, I don't know, it's just my thinking. You would think maybe, um, common sense wise, I guess, or just lack of education on the topic, you would think that if a person with bipolar disorder took medication for depression, it would help with their depressive episodes at least, and then they would still have the mania. But as it turns out, it actually can at least has the ability to worsen all of the symptoms, which is pretty crazy. That's interesting. Would have never thought that. The Future. That's it. Okay, sorry. That just for some reason that randomly popped in my head. Leonard Cohen's song "The Future" is a really good song. You got to check that out. Judy Collins, at the height of their fame in 60s and 70s, the singer-songwriter struggled with depression and bulimia. Pat Conroy. I don't know who Pat Conroy. Oh, Lords of Discipline, The Prince of Tides, and The Great Santini. He's a writer. Sheryl Crow. Kirsten Dunst. Oh, wow. Hospitalized for major depression, citing the pressures of her profession as a contributing factor. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Her award winning performance as a depressed bride who can't make it through her own wedding reception in Melancholia. Yeah, I remember that. That was a really good movie. Really, I mean, very depressing movie. People that have had depression actually say that Melancholia is like a depressive episode. Lady Gaga. Oh, no kidding. I would have never thought that. Oh, geez. Wow. Tipper Gore. That was Al Gore's wife. John Hamm, the Mad Men actor. Oh, geez. Crazy. Janet Jackson. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, former pro wrestler and current action film star, has opened up about how faith helped him get through a devastating bout of depression after his early career in football faltered. Oh, I do remember reading about that. Yeah, okay. He had a knee issue, couldn't play football. That's what he wanted to do. Ashley Judd, the actress. Wow. Elena McGardle, Gwyneth Paltrow, another Oscar award winning actress. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, experienced a severe depression after the breakup of her short marriage. At one point, she contemplated suicide. Yeah, interesting. Okay, Brooke Shields. Well, yeah, no, I imagine that. The former child model and adult actress has written a book about her experience with postpartum depression. Down Came the Rain. She took an actor, Tom Cruise, she took on actor Tom Cruise in the editorial pages of the New York Times when he made a misinformed public statement about women with postpartum depression not needing medication. Yeah, Brooke Shields had a rough childhood, man. That's a disturbing rabbit hole to go down, because Brooke Shields, she was posing in Playboy when she was 10. Okay, so I don't even want to go any more deeper into that, but yeah, that was a thing, and that was back in like the 70s. So a lot of people don't realize how our child pornography laws are very recent in this country. And unfortunately for Brooke Shields, man, she was doing a lot of that, I mean, like I said, former child model. She was a little girl when she was doing that shit. So I would imagine that would lead to some serious issues in your later years. Emma Thompson, oh wow. Lars von Trier. Well, yeah, that I definitely could have picked that one out. Lars von Trier is one of my favorite directors. I guess I'm going to say favorite, but he's a good director. He wrote and directed the movie Melancholia, which was about depression. He has what's called the Depression Saga, which is Melancholia, Nymphomaniac, and the Antichrist, are three movies that make up what he calls his Depression Saga, which was about his struggles with depression. Gerard Way, the singer of My Chemical Romance, and Owen Wilson. Oh, wow. At the age of 38, the popular actor with a laid back image and easygoing manner landed in a hospital after a serious suicide attempt. Holy shit. Wow. Geesh, that is too crazy. I would have never thought that. I mean, that's one of those guys. I don't think they put him in here, but wasn't Robin Williams, I think, had a very serious issue with depression. Oh, look at that. Just read it real quick. Thank you for sharing, Joe. I appreciate your courage and honesty. Distorted thoughts are very common when experiencing depression and anxiety. Fortunately, cognitive behavioral therapy is an evidence-based treatment that can help. I did a whole 2-hour stream on cognitive behavioral therapy. Actually, that was the first stream I ever did. I did cognitive behavioral therapy for about 3 years, and it was very helpful. Highly recommend it, right? So yeah, when we go down to treatment, let's look at some of the symptoms of it. So, symptoms of major depression include feelings of sadness, loneliness, or emptiness that last most of the day for several days on end, a loss of interest or pleasure in activities that used to be enjoyable, tiredness and chronic low energy, difficulty thinking clearly, concentrating, making decisions, or remembering, feelings of worthlessness and guilt, feelings of irritability, frustration, or anger that are out of proportion to the circumstance. I got a mustache hair that is tickling my nose. And like my mustache hair is standing straight up and it's just kicking my ass. Um, Restlessness and agitation, sleep disturbances, including sleeping too much or sleeping too little, like insomnia, change of appetite, most often leading to loss of weight, though some people may have increased appetite and weight gain, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide, as well as suicide attempts or plans. Let's see, these are types of mood disorder. So those would be symptoms to look out for. Treatment. Okay, true depression is a medical condition, and a person who has it cannot get better by simply snapping out of it or having a better attitude. Depression can occur at any age. It is most common in adults aged 25 to 44, with the median age of onset at 32. Major depression is a serious mental health problem that has the potential to be a disabling condition. It also carries a higher risk of suicide. Major depression usually occurs in episodes which can last 3 to 12 months. Many people experience several episodes before they seek help. Early intervention is better, results in better outcomes and a lessened chance of developing a lifelong disability. So it is most commonly treated with psychotherapy or medication, frequently together. Other treatments, such as electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, or transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, may be helpful for some people who do not respond to more typical treatments. Oh, I've never heard of either of those. That would be kind of interesting to do a whole, I got to start writing this shit down. And because I say this every time on stream, like, oh, that would be a cool stream. And then by the time I get off my stream, I fucking forget what that super cool stream idea was. Okay, hold on. What was I going to say? Uh, Types of treatment. It would be really cool to do a stream on different types of treatment, like ECT, unique types of treatment. That's what I mean to say. Unique types of treatment. And I'm forgetting how to spell unique. There it is. Okay. And then the theory about 4 personality types. That would be intriguing. And a whole thing on the DSM-5. Okay, there we go. That's awesome. Now I won't forget that shit. All right. And let's see. So the main types of treatment are cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, electroconclusive therapy. I don't have any idea what that is. Light therapy, medication, transcranial magnetic stimulation. Complementary and supportive services include medication management and monitoring, mindfulness meditation, peer support, psychoeducation, psychosocial rehabilitation, self management strategies, supported employment, supported education, and supportive housing. So those are all things that help with depression. I really like, what is this? rtor.org. We might be popping back on them for the other disorders too, because that gives us a real easy way to run through it. So we're going to go ahead and watch a video on it from Mass General Brigham. I don't remember that one. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the Emosis one. Okay. So from Mass General Brigham, smaller channel, they're going to give us a rundown of major depression. So let's check it out. Here, let me pop you over to the YouTube screen. There we go. Put them on. Okay, see what they have.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, is actually quite common. It occurs in up to 8 to 12.
Okay, so this is post-traumatic stress disorder, obviously. Let's see. Oh, I might not have saved my video on depression. Well, I can run by one later. Oh, that's my friend.
This is Psychedelic News, your quick daily.
Let's see. Let's give him a thumbs up.
If you thought dinosaurs...
This is Psychedelic News, your quick daily dose of what's happening in the world of psychedelics. Brought to you by Mile High Microdose. The U.S. Department of Defense has just confirmed $9.8 million to study MDMA therapy for active duty troops.
April. Yeah, that looks like that's his new one. This is my buddy, Sean Wondermush. Got to go check him out. I really like his new aesthetic. He's got a whole sort of what's the guy's name? Oh, come on. Hunter S. Thompson thing going on there.
This is Psychedelic News, your
So-
quick daily dose of what's
Yeah, go show him some love. Okay, yeah, I can throw up the depression video later on in the stream, refine that guy. But so for now, I guess we're gonna jump into post-traumatic stress disorder. Give a rundown of that. So
Post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD, is actually quite common. It occurs in up to 8 to 12% of the population over the course of their lifetime. PTSD affects those who have been significantly traumatized by a life-threatening experience. It affects both civilians and veterans. It is a very important mental health disorder, both because it affects quality of life, but also because it is one of the leading causes of suicide. PTSD dates back in its symptomatology to the earliest recorded history with the ancient Greeks and Romans, where people were changed forever after a serious battle. It began to be seen and understood better after the Civil War and the World Wars, but was first really codified in our modern terminology after the Vietnam War, where people would come back forever changed mentally and physically. Following the Vietnam War in the 1970s, we really began to understand more about the effects of trauma on civilians with the women's rights movement, where we really began to understand the role of sexual trauma in women. Together, this led to an expanded understanding of both the similarities and differences in the role of trauma and PTSD in both veterans and civilians. There are two general approaches to treating PTSD: talk therapy and medications. Our first line of treatment is generally psychoeducation and skills training to help the patient better deal with the emotional symptoms that come with the trauma reminders and the symptoms of PTSD. However, the best empirically informed treatment we have for post-traumatic stress is trauma-informed exposure therapy, in which the patient works with the therapist to rework through the trauma over and over again until it is essentially just a boring memory as opposed to a life-threatening black hole of emotional symptoms. I'm particularly excited about
yeah, on that note, next week, next Monday, we'll be going over EMDR therapy. That's eye movement desensitization and rehabilitation therapy. I did that for a couple years. That definitely helps with any sort of like traumatic memories and stuff like that. Uh, As you'll hear in that stream, EMDR therapy has a pretty high rate of success with post-traumatic stress disorder. But it is very similar to they just said it. We're at 152. Exposure therapy. Very similar to exposure therapy in that you continuously go over the stressful memory and until essentially you're somewhat disassociated from the memory and in the sense that you no longer have an emotional connection to it. So yeah, we'll be going over that next week. I'm a huge fan of EMDR therapy, and I even got an EMDR bar, light bar, and the whole little gadgets and gadgets, and we'll be doing a rundown of how that works next week. So we'll be in post-traumatic stress disorder. Will come back up during that stream. So anyway, let's let this guy continue.
to a life-threatening black hole of emotional symptoms. I'm particularly excited about future treatments for PTSD. In fact, in PTSD, we understand the most among mental health disorders about the neuroscience, biology, and genetics of post-traumatic stress. At Mass General Brigham, we have numerous studies ongoing to really expand the treatment of post-traumatic stress, whether it be using neurotherapeutics such as transcranial magnetic stimulation, targeting specific brain networks to alter how they work and to improve their functioning in post-traumatic stress. We also have novel drug treatments that are really targeting the underlying biology of post-traumatic stress disorder. One of the most exciting future opportunities is preventing PTSD from ever happening. At Mass General Brigham, we have large studies identifying people in emergency departments after trauma and understanding the biology, psychology, and brain mechanisms of the development of stress, trauma, and PTSD over the weeks and months after trauma. These sorts of studies make it possible that we might be able to have interventions in the emergency department or the first night of sleep, just like we do for heart attacks or strokes, to prevent the trauma from ever developing into PTSD in the first place. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Kerry Ressler. For more videos on mental health, click here. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking here.
All right. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, let me flop back over to this screen right here. Get our... Oh, yeah, you know what? I forget that I don't have a chat up. Oh, you know what? Here. Let me flop that up. I keep forgetting that I never actually throw my chat up. But, yeah, that's interesting. The site that I was just on only did variety of evidences. I didn't know there was such a thing as PBE. But that's good to hear because, yeah, I was aware that there is just a crap ton of treatment methods in psychology, and some of them definitely are like, well, what's the word that I'm looking for? Yeah, some of them are kind of hard to believe that that would actually help, right? Like some you hear about some of them and you're like, really? Like, is that an actual treatment method that, you know? And so, yeah, there's a crazy amount of them. Uh, Want to cough in your face. Uh, but yeah, that's interesting that that's now suddenly a thing. Psychotherapy based on evidences divides the psychology a lot because there are too many methods, but only recently, more or less around the 90s, that evidence for treatment started to get more valued. Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that they actually, are valuing a little bit more of the psychotherapy based on evidences. Now, are you referring to that website that I was just at? Here, I can actually pull it up again. Because it actually looked like a pretty good website. I was this one right here, RTOR. Ah. Oh, sure, sure. There was actually just a video on the that had CPT.
Post-traumatic stress disorder,
Oh,
also
it
known
went
as
away.
PTSD, is actually quite common.
The
It occurs in
PTSD, but
up
with
to
the
8 to
C in front of it.
12% of the
I was,
population over
I
the
guess
course
I
of their
never
lifetime.
had heard of that before. Oh,
PTSD
there's one on
affects those
EMDR
who
therapy
have
right
been
there.
significantly traumatized by
Um,
a life-threatening experience.
Should probably stop that so you can hear me. Uh, but yeah, no, that's interesting. That's intriguing to hear about the PBE. That would be a really cool stream too, actually. And I've actually never heard of what is this? Here, let me look that up real quick. CPS, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, can result from experiencing chronic trauma such as prolonged child abuse or domestic violence, closely related to PTSD and borderline personality disorder. CPTSD is manageable with psychotherapy and medication. Interesting. So, as Adamant in the chat was saying, this is more than likely going to be in the DSM-R 6, which looks like it might be coming around in 2027. Is that what you said, Adamant? I'm gonna, let me run it back up the chat. 2027. Yeah, I need to start putting the chat back up in my videos. I had it over here in this area, but the first like several weeks that I was chatting, nobody was really chatting, or that I was streaming, no one was really chatting, so I was like, well, I'll just take that out of there then, you know. But now that I get more people chatting, last stream I had a good conversation with a guy too that was popping in here, giving me a whole lot of interesting stream ideas. And but I guess I don't know. That's if, people enjoy that. But either way, I like reading the chats, even if they're not up here. I still read them and enjoy them. It's nice to have people to talk to about this kind of stuff. It's intriguing. That PBE, psychotherapy based on evidence, would be a really enjoyable stream to make. I can imagine, though, not having that chat up here, people who watch this on YouTube are probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? Is he just talking to himself? I got to say something like, oh, I'm talking to somebody in the chat, so you can see what's happening. Okay, so let's read some statistics about post-traumatic stress disorder. So the definition of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD can develop after exposure to a potentially traumatic event that is beyond a typical stressor. Events that may lead to PTSD include, but are not limited to, violent personal assaults, natural or human caused disasters, accidents, combat, and other forms of violence. Exposure to events like these is common. About one half of all U.S. adults will experience at least one traumatic event in their lives, but most do not develop PTSD. People who experience PTSD may have persistent, frightening thoughts and memories of the events, experience sleep problems, feel detached or numb, or may be easily startled. In severe forms, PTSD can significantly impair a person's ability to function at work and at home and socially. So, what I'm kind of getting is PTSD and CPTSD. CPTSD happens when it's prolonged exposure, and PTSD happens when it's like one instant. Is that true? Is that the case? Let me know in chat if I completely fucked that up. Um, so yeah, past year prevalence of post-traumatic stress disorder among adults. So here we got our breakdown again. Overall, about 3.6% of adults have PTSD. Female, about 5.2% compared to male, which is 1.8%. So much, much higher. Age ranges much higher in the 45 to 59%, which is kind of interesting. And then second highest would be 18 to 29. Interesting. Post traumatic stress disorder amongst adults, kind of already went over that. Past year severity of post traumatic stress disorder. So serious, mild, moderate. Okay. Prevalence amongst young adolescents, about 5% when compared to 3.6% in adults. So kids seem to be developing it more. Women, again, young girls are back up at 8%. Even the men are upper closer to 2.3%. And then 17 to 8 is 7. I knew that burp was coming. It was like waiting right there. It was just waiting for me to talk so it can fuck up my sentence. 7% is the highest, age 17 to 18. The age range with the highest amount of PTSD. Okay, so there's some statistics on it. Oh, interesting. Okay, so PTSD has 8 criterias you need to meet to be diagnosed. CPTSD is more complex since you have to meet 3 more criteria. So you have 11 criterias that you actually need to meet for that. That's very interesting. Here, I hope they give us the criteria on here somewhere. I imagine you would get that out of the DSM-5. That's exactly what the DSM-5 is for, the exact criteria that you need to meet in order to have PTSD. But okay, so yeah, it's definitely more complex. So the seeing it, they weren't fucking around, huh? Yeah, much more complex disorder. That's interesting. I didn't even know there was such a thing. That's got to be, I mean, not a new thing, but a newly discovered thing, right? Like people have probably always had CPTSD. They just now realize how it's different than regular PTSD. Interesting. So here's some symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder. The symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder can have a significant impact on day to day life. One is re experiencing is the most typical symptom of PTSD. This is when a person involuntarily and vividly relives the traumatic event in the form of flashbacks, nightmares, repetitive and distressing images or sensations, physical sensations such as pain, sweating, feeling sick, or trembling. Avoidance and emotional numbing was another one. We just kind of seen that in the video. Trying to avoid being reminded of the traumatic event is another key symptom of PTSD. This usually means avoiding certain people or places that remind you of the trauma or avoiding talking to anyone about your experiences. Many people with PTSD try to push memories of the event out of their mind, often distracting themselves with work or hobbies. Some people attempt to deal with their feelings by trying not to feel anything at all. This is known as emotional numbing. Hyperarousal or feeling on edge. That isn't the good kind of arousal. Someone with PTSD may be very anxious and find it difficult to relax. They may be constantly aware of threats and easily startled. This state of mind is known as hyperarousal. Often leads to irritability, angry outbursts, sleeping problems like insomnia, and difficulty concentrating. Some other problems that can happen with PTSD, other mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, or phobias, self harming or destructive behavior such as drug or alcohol misuse, other physical symptoms such as headaches, dizziness, chest pains, and stomach aches. PTSD can sometimes lead to work-related problems and the breakdown of relationships. Sure, that definitely makes sense. So PTSD in children have similar symptoms, such as having trouble sleeping and upsetting nightmares. They lose interest in activities they used to enjoy. Can also come with some of the physical symptoms like headaches and stomach aches. Other symptoms would be difficult behavior, avoiding things related to the traumatic event, and reenacting the traumatic event again and again through their playtime, which is interesting. Hmm. Mm. Oh, okay. So yeah, you can find the criterias for the CPTSD written in the ICD-11, International Classification of Diseases 11th revision. Okay, so that's more of like the DSM-5 would be like the American version of that, right? Yeah, well, the American version of it just for mental disorders, the International Classification of Diseases would be obviously not America, but the whole world. And does that cover all diseases, the ICD 11? Is that like all diseases are covered in that or just mental health issues? That would be kind of interesting to have a copy of that too. I bet that's huge though. That's got to be a giant fucking book. Oh, okay. So now let's jump over to general anxiety disorder. Let's see. Let's throw down just a couple of statistics on it first. Okay, so generalized anxiety disorder. Generalized anxiety disorder is characterized by excessive anxiety and worry about a variety of events or activities, for example, work or school performance, that occur more days than not for at least 6 months. People with generalized anxiety disorder find it difficult to control their worry, which may cause impairment in social, occupational, and other areas of functioning. So, prevalence of generalized anxiety disorder among adults. Let's take a look. So, we got about 2% overall in the adult population here in America. 3.4% of that is women, 1.9 men. And most of that is happening between the ages of 30 and 44, or it's very close, almost a tie between ages 30 and 44 and 45 and 99. So older adults is where that seems to be hitting as far as the adult population is concerned. Ah, okay, sure. Man, that's got the ICD 11 includes all diseases. So that's got to be a massive fucking book. I'm talking to the chat again for anybody who sees this on YouTube. Next time I'll put my chat up on the screen so it doesn't look like I'm talking to myself. But man, that's got to be a big ass fucking book. There are so many diseases out there. That would be interesting to have that though. Sometimes when I'm a writer and sometimes when I'm writing a story and a character has like a disease or a mental disorder, it would be nice to have the ICD just sitting there so I could pull that up too. I'm sure you can find that the same way though. It's got to be for free somewhere on the internet. But still, that's interesting. I didn't even know something like that existed. I mean, it makes sense that it would. You know, it's not crazy that it exists. But I wouldn't have been able to tell you what it's called. I don't hear the ICD come up in conversations nearly as much as I hear the DSM-5 come up in conversations. You know, so not something that I've ran into before. But that's very interesting. So yeah, they would have every mental disorder you can get would be in the ICD. Yeah, yeah, it would be the DSM-5 plus a whole lot of others. Oh yeah. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Adamant. I appreciate that. So useful, man. Geesh. Wow, look at that. Ooh, and each one of these go through it. Oh man, that is absolutely crazy. I can't even imagine how many pages this guy is. Well, thank you for the link, though. I really appreciate that. That's crazy that you had it so quickly like that, too. Did you have these links lying around? Like, do you just have these on your computer because of school? Or you just enjoy reading it, so you kind of have it sitting there? Or you're just really fast at looking shit up. It could be that, too. But either way, yeah, let me save this, too, because this is really interesting, too, here. Bam. That'll be nice to have for whenever I'm writing stories, too. I had a couple stories that I've written where somebody has a medical issue in the story, and I got to sit and sift through the internet for the exact medical issue they have, what the exact name of it is, symptoms, read about it so that it's like, true to the character, or it actually like sounds true. Well, it doesn't sound like I just made up a random disorder, right? There is some crazy diseases out there, though. I'll tell you that. That would be, I got to put that down. Yeah, that would be an awesome stream, too. The craziest diseases or freakiest diseases known to man. I think that would go really good on a terrifying Tuesday. There we go. Okay. That would be an awesome stream, too. Um, let's see. We go to that. Okay, yeah. Generalized anxiety disorder in adolescents. So only 2.2 of adolescents compared to adults 2.7. So it's a little bit more in adults. Women still twice as much as men, and ages 17 to 18 seem to have the highest amount of generalized anxiety disorder. So what is generalized anxiety disorder? Let's take a look at it, understand it a little bit more. Generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, is characterized by persistent and excessive worry about a number of different things. People with GAD may anticipate disaster and may be overly concerned about money, health, family, work, or other issues. Individuals with GAD find it difficult to control their worry. They may worry more than seems warranted about actual events or may expect the worst even when there is no apparent reason for concern. GAD is diagnosed when a person finds it difficult to control worry on more days than not for at least 6 months and has 3 or more symptoms. This differentiates GAD from worry that may be specific to a set stressor or for a more limited period of time. Okay, and has 3 or more symptoms, right. And we'll have, oh, here we go. I already got a link to the symptoms. GAD affects 6.8 million adults, or 3.1% of the U.S. population in any given year. Women are twice as likely to be affected. The disorder comes on gradually and can begin across the life cycle, though the risk is highest between childhood and middle age. Although the exact cause of GAD is unknown, there is evidence that biological factors, family background, and life experiences, particularly stressful ones, play a role. Okay, yeah, being in the psychology field, you probably don't use it as much as you do the DSM-5, but it's still probably useful to read at least. The ICD-11 is probably still, interesting, right? I mean, a very interesting read. You can only I've read through some of the crazy diseases that exist in the world, and it's kind of mind-boggling, man. It can be a mind fuck what sort of stuff is out there that you've never heard of, right? Like, you think Ebola is bad, and Ebola is bad, but some of the other shit that exists, it's like makes Ebola look like Disneyland, man. It's intense. Let's see. Sometimes just the thought of getting through the day produces anxiety. People with GAD don't know how to stop the worry cycle and feel it is beyond their control, even though they usually realize that their anxiety is more intense than the situation warrants. All anxiety disorders may relate to a difficulty tolerating uncertainty, and therefore many people with GAD try to plan or control situations. Many people believe worry prevents bad things from happening, so they view it as risky to give up worrying. At times, people can struggle with physical symptoms such as stomach aches and headaches, similar to PTSD. When their anxiety level is mild to moderate or with treatment, people with GAD can function socially, have full and meaningful lives, and be gainfully employed. Many with GAD may avoid situations because they have the disorder, or they may not take advantage of opportunities due to their worry. Some people can have difficulty carrying out the simplest daily activities when their anxiety is severe. While less common, some individuals with anxiety disorders may experience uh, what is that? They said that anhedonia, anhedonia. I saw a see, and I can't click on it. Here, let me anhedonia. Apps lock on. Anhedonia. Inability to feel pleasure. Inability to experience pleasure or joy. Well, that's a bummer, literally. And activities that one typically enjoys. Okay. Yeah, we saw that with depression. That was a very common thing that people had. So here's some symptoms from GAD disorder. So, oh, where it goes. Okay, symptoms, signs and symptoms of GAD. Feeling nervous, irritable, or on edge, having a sense of impending danger, panic, or doom, having an increased heart rate, breathing rapidly, hyperventilation, sweating and or trembling, feeling weak or tired, having difficulty concentrating, having trouble sleeping, and experiencing intestinal problems. So there's your main symptoms of GAD. So that's number 3 on our list of the top 5 most common mental disorders that you have nowadays, here, at least in the US, right? I kind of kept the scope of this particular stream into just the US because that was where the most statistics I found were US related. When I wanted to go like over the across the world, it was a little more difficult for them to pin down specific things. Because you kind of have to have statistics from all over the world to be able to say what's the most common one in the world. You know, so I kind of more just kept it to America. But GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, is number 3. So, you know, I've definitely met people that have had depression, and I've definitely met people that have had PTSD. And I don't know if I've ever met anybody that has GAD, or perhaps I did and I just never knew that they had it. But that's actually a new one for me. I had never heard of general anxiety disorder before I did research for this stream. I think that was the only one that I had never heard of. These next two, obsessive compulsive disorder and bipolar disorder, I had definitely heard of those two before I'd done the stream, but generalized anxiety disorder was one that I had never heard of before. So that one was new to me. Next we're gonna hit bipolar disorder. This is what we were talking about earlier with depression and mania, right? Kind of remember talking about that. Let's see, let's pop up some of the statistics on this bad boy. There it is right there. So this is the fourth out of the 5th most common ones, right? So bipolar disorder, sometimes referred to as manic depressive disorder, is characterized by dramatic shifts in mood, energy, and activity levels that affect a person's ability to carry out day-to-day tasks. Oh, got a burp. These shifts in mood and energy levels are more severe than the normal ups and downs that are experienced by everyone. I think everybody's kind of heard of bipolar disorder. You always kind of hear that. Everybody, every guy I've talked to is always like, "Oh, my ex-girlfriend, she had that." And it's kind of like narcissistic personality disorder, where whenever somebody is acting a certain way or doing, anytime you break up with somebody, it seems like, or anytime one of your friends breaks up with somebody, it's always they immediately are like, "Oh my God, they were such a narcissist." It's like, well, they probably didn't have narcissistic personality disorder. They were probably just a dick. But it is bipolar disorder is another one that I constantly hear whenever somebody breaks up with somebody else, like, "Oh my God, they're so bipolar." So prevalence of bipolar disorder among adults. So about 2.8% of American adults have bipolar disorder. Men and women have it fairly equally. The most common age range is 18 to 29. Oh, and which is different, right? Those two statistics are pretty opposite of what we've seen with the other disorders, right? Almost every other disorder that we've seen, women were much more likely to get it than men. And it almost always seemed to rest in between the ages of 30 and 99. So much older age versus younger age. This one definitely flipping the script on that. Let's look at it in adolescence. 2.9% of adolescents have it. Women show it at a higher rate than men do in adolescence. And 17 to 18 is the age range that shows it the most, with 4.3%, right? So there's some statistics on bipolar disorder. And I got a little video here for you guys to watch on it. Here, let me throw you over to the YouTube screen. With an ad, of course, first. Get this guy out of the way.
Mom? Vitiligo.
Curiosity is a question at the edge of every thought.
So if you're...
All right.
Maybe you've heard the term bipolar used to describe someone who's moody or who has mood swings. But this colloquial use of the term is really different from bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder, which used to be called manic depression, is a serious mental illness that causes a person to have dramatic shifts in emotions, mood, and energy levels, moving from extreme lows to extreme highs. But these shifts don't happen moment to moment. They usually happen over several days or weeks. There are a few different types of bipolar disorders, but there are some common features. First, the low moods are identical to those in a related disorder, major depressive disorder, also known as unipolar depression. Individuals with this can feel hopeless and discouraged, lack energy and mental focus, and can have physical symptoms like eating and sleeping too much or too little. But along with these lows, the thing that sets bipolar disorders apart from unipolar depression is that individuals can have periods of high moods, which are called manic episodes or hypomanic episodes, depending on their level of severity. In a manic state, people can feel energetic, overly happy or optimistic, even euphoric with really high self-esteem. And on the surface, these might seem like really positive characteristics, but when someone's in a full manic episode, these symptoms can reach a dangerous extreme. A person experiencing mania might invest all of their money in a risky business venture, or they might behave recklessly.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that, because, yeah, when they list those symptoms, it seems like such a nice thing to be. It's like, fuck, I want euphoria. Like, I want excessive self esteem, but whenever you read about people who have this bipolar disorder, when they're having manic episodes, they do some pretty crazy shit. This is another one. I've never met anybody that actually has bipolar disorder that I know of. I've heard a lot about it. I've heard of bipolar disorder before. You're commonly talked about. Again, I've seen so many people accuse their ex of having it, but I myself have never actually met somebody with bona fide bipolar disorder. Only ever read stories about it. And yeah, a lot of times, this seems like the worst part of it. And as far as like the symptoms that would suck the most to have, but the manic episodes are where they're really batshit crazy and they do some pretty messed up stuff to themselves, right? Like they end up making some really unfortunate decisions that end up having a really bad effect on their lives. So, that's just very interesting that it works that way. There is such thing as too much of a good thing, and that even includes euphoria and self-esteem.
Individuals might have pressured speech where they talk constantly at a rapid fire pace, or they might have racing thoughts and might feel wired, as if they don't need sleep. Manic episodes can also include delusions of grandeur, like for example, they might believe that they're on a personal mission from God, or that they have some supernatural power. And finally, they might make poor decisions without any regard for later consequences. One way to understand these swings is by charting them on a graph. So let's say that the y-axis is mood, with mania and depression being on the far ends of the axis, and the x-axis is time. The average healthy individual might have normal ups and downs throughout their life, and they might even have some pretty serious lows once in a while, maybe after losing a job or moving to a new place and feeling lonely. An individual with unipolar depression, though, might have normal highs, but they'll probably also have some crushing lows that last for a long period of time and might not even have an obvious trigger. Now, for the bipolar disorders, the first one is called bipolar 1. And these are people that have some major lows that last at least 2 weeks, and then some major highs that last at least a week or require hospitalization. That said, untreated manic episodes can last.
Yeah, see, that's crazy. Require hospitalization due to your mania. Like, I can only imagine what kind of stuff they're doing there to include hospitalization. It is interesting to read, not even for the sake, I don't mean that in the sake of like, it's entertaining, like it's enjoyable to read about these people doing these horrible things to mess up their life. It's intriguing just to see like what mania can spark people to actually do. Like you would not expect it. Maybe at the end of the stream we'll probably have some time left over to look into it. We might pop up Reddit real quick and read a couple stories of things people have done when they're in manic episodes, just to iterate that fact, just to blow your mind with the kind of stuff that people with mania can actually do. It's pretty sad, really is the right word.
As long as 3 to 6 months. And even though depression is seen in most cases, it's not actually required for a diagnosis. The second one is called bipolar 2, and this is when a person experiences similar lows and has additional highs called hypomania, which are less severe manic episodes than we see in bipolar 1. To qualify for a diagnosis, these hypomanic states need to last for at least 4 days. Once again, though, these symptoms generally last a few weeks to a few months. All right, and the third one's called cyclothymia, or sometimes cyclothymic disorder. And these people have milder lows as well as milder highs, or hypomania like you see in bipolar 2. And they cycle back and forth between these two over a period lasting at least 2 years. Sometimes people with bipolar disorder can show other, less common symptoms as well. For example, having what are referred to as mixed episodes.
Man, I did not know there was that many types of bipolar disorder, to be honest. That's crazy that it can happen in so many different ways.
Experiencing symptoms of both depression and mania at the same time. Another symptom they might have is rapid cycling, which describes a situation where a person has 4 or more episodes of depression or mania within a given year. Like most mental health conditions, the exact underlying cause of bipolar disorder isn't known, and there's no single bipolar gene that's been identified, but it's thought that there are genetic and environmental factors that play a part. For example, one interesting clue is that people with family members who have bipolar disorders are 10 times more likely to have it themselves. Another clue is that some drugs and medications can trigger manic episodes, like selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. It's also
Shit. Adamant, you were talking about that. That's exactly what you were saying. SSRIs, medications for depression, can actually spark the manic episode. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, see, yeah, a person with bipolar type 1 can even have psychosis. Yeah, see, that's insane. Like, that's super scary, to be honest. Like, that's scarier than the super lows, you know? Like, the lows is probably a horrible feeling. I can't imagine what that's like. But those super highs, to get to a point of psychosis is just wild, you know? But yeah, that's interesting. Exactly what you said. See, you could have just made this whole fucking video, man. That psychology school has been doing you well. Been paying attention, clearly.
also worth mentioning that people with bipolar disorder often have other disorders like anxiety disorders, substance abuse disorders, ADHD, and personality disorders as well, making diagnosis and treatment a real challenge. Even though there's no cure for bipolar disorder, identifying and treating individuals is really important, since there's a real danger that the person could harm themselves or even commit suicide. One of the oldest treatments is also one of the most effective treatments, and that's lithium salts. Lithium acts as a mood stabilizer, smoothing out the highs and the lows that they experience. That said, it's much better at treating manic rather than depressive episodes, and so individuals who take it often have to take other medications as well, which can be problematic since some antidepressants, like SSRIs, can trigger manic episodes in people that are predisposed to them. Other treatment options include antipsychotics, anticonvulsants, and benzodiazepines. But many of these, including lithium, have side effects that can be severe and lead to non-adherence, which can be dangerous for the person. Now, unlike certain disorders like unipolar depression, psychological interventions like talk therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy are not particularly effective in treating the manic episodes of bipolar disorder.
Yeah, that's another point to make. As I remember if you're interested in looking at the cognitive behavioral therapy video that I did on YouTube, uh, yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. There's a few studies that have been done on CBT with bipolar disorder, and it is not very effective. And man, you go through that list of different medications that they could use, and that's a rough one, dude. Like this one, none of these disorders seem enjoyable, obviously, because they're flipping disorders. But it's intense, man. Taking lithium is the treatment top one for bipolarity because it's the only medicine that really is a humor regulator. I did not know that. Lithium salts, too, of all things. Is that just a pill that you take, like a lithium salt pill? But yeah, that is crazy. I mean, that's rough, though, man. Like that giant list of medications, that's brutal. Yeah, and it's a metal. Yeah, that is wild too. That's crazy to think, dude. That's so wild that it works that way. That you take lithium of all things, and it helps regulate mood. Well, I would have never thought that. That's so crazy. But yeah, the bipolar disorder really does seem like, out of all four of these that we've gone through so far, depression, post traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and bipolar disorder, this one seems like the gnarliest. It really does.
Having said that, they can still be very helpful tools to help someone with bipolar disorder in general, especially after a manic episode has ended. They can also help the person handle stressful situations that might otherwise lead to a manic episode, thereby helping to prevent a potential manic episode in the first place. Alright, so super fast recap. Bipolar disorder is a mental disorder characterized by depression, periods of lowered mood, as well as mania, periods of a heightened mood. Thanks for watching. You can help support us by donating on Patreon, or subscribing to our channel, or telling your friends about us on social media.
All right. So yeah, that channel was Osmosis from Elsevier. They're a pretty big channel though. I've never heard of them, but I was surprised to see 3.5 million subscribers. So they're pretty big. That was a good video though. Give them that a like. I like the animation in it. Super simple, easy to understand. I almost went with Psych to Go, but I've used their videos a couple of times on Mental Health Monday, so I went with these guys instead. But yeah, bipolar disorder to me, here, yeah, bipolar disorder to me definitely seems like it's one of the worst ones. Like that would be the least enjoyable. None of them seem good at all. They all suck. I had depression, you're incredibly horrifically sad. Post traumatic stress disorder, you're constantly on edge, worried about triggers, experiencing a trauma over and over again. Generalized anxiety disorder, you're just fucking worried about everything all the fucking time. And bipolar disorder, unless it's one of the lesser ones, I forget what they called it, but there's one where the highs and lows aren't as high and low. It just seemed like you cycle through them a lot more, which would still really suck. But that type 1 seemed like a real fucking bummer, bro. Like, that would really suck. Again, like Adamant was saying in chat, that could turn into psychosis. That's just crazy. That's bad news. Okay, yeah, we're gonna jump to the last one that we have here, obsessive compulsive disorder. That was the number 5 on my list of the top 5 most common mental health disorders, right? So OCD is often a long-lasting disorder in which a person has uncontrollable, reoccurring thoughts, which are obsessions, and behaviors, which are compulsions, that he or she feels the urge to repeat over and over. So we're gonna look at some prevalence of this. Let's see, past year prevalence in a U.S. adult, 1.2% of adults have some form of OCD. Women, again, we're back to that trend where women have it a lot higher. It's over 3 times as likely to have OCD. And it's most likely to happen in people between ages 18 and 29. So that's a little different than what we've seen. When we go into, and they don't have any information on youth or adolescents. Okay, well, that is what that is. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Let's take a look at what it is. After I burp. Okay. This is a little baby burp. Obsessive compulsive disorder features a pattern of unwanted thoughts and fears known as obsessions. These obsessions lead you to do repetitive behaviors, also called compulsions. These obsessions and compulsions get in the way of daily activities and cause a lot of distress. Ultimately, you feel driven to do compulsive acts to ease your stress. Even if you try to ignore or get rid of bothersome thoughts or urges, they keep coming back. This leads you to act based on ritual. This is a vicious cycle of OCD. OCD often centers around certain themes, such as being overly fearful of getting contaminated by germs. To ease contamination fears, you may wash your hands over and over again until they're sore and chapped. Ugh. If you have OCD, you may be ashamed, embarrassed, and frustrated about the condition, but treatment can be effective. Symptoms of OCD. Obsessive compulsive disorder usually includes both obsessions and compulsions, but it's also possible to have only obsession symptoms or only compulsion symptoms. You may or may not know that your obsessions and compulsions are beyond reason, but they take up a great deal of time, reduce your quality of life, and get in the way of your daily routines and responsibilities. So, obsession symptoms. OCD obsessions are lasting and unwanted thoughts that keep coming back, or urges or images that are intrusive and cause distress or anxiety. You might try to ignore them or get rid of them by acting based on ritual. These obsessions usually intrude when you are trying to think or do other things. Obsessions often have themes such as fear of contamination or dirt, doubting and having a hard time dealing with uncertainty, needing things to be orderly and balanced, aggressive or horrific thoughts about losing control and harming yourself or others, unwanted thoughts, including aggression or sexual or religious subjects. Interesting. Examples of obsession symptoms include fear of being contaminated by touching objects others have touched, doubts that you've locked the door or turned off the stove, intense stress when objects aren't orderly or facing a certain way, images of driving your car into a crowd of people. Oh, that's horrible. Thoughts about shouting obscenities or not acting the right way in public, unpleasant sexual images. I don't even want to know what those are. Staying away from situations that can cause obsessions, such as shaking hands. Oh, okay. Adamant with a fun fact here. While bipolar type 1 can have psychosis together, there is another disorder called schizoaffective. That is the opposite. A person with schizophrenia that can have mood episodes. The main difference between them is that psychosis only happens in mood episodes if it is bipolar type 1, and if the psychosis happens out of the mood episode, then it is a schizoaffective disorder. Oh, wow, that's interesting. And that's complicated too, to be honest. It's interesting, but that is complicated. That's got to make it even 10 times more difficult to figure out what a person's issue actually is. Or maybe, I don't know. Now that I'm rereading it, might make it a little bit easier. I wonder how they figure that out, though, too. Like how many times they had to look into people with this before they realized that it works that way. That's really interesting. Schizoaffective disorder. Yeah, schizophrenia wasn't on the list of the most common, so I didn't put it here, but that is a very interesting disorder. That might be something that's worth doing just a single stream on by itself. Let me look at this, though. Schizoaffective disorder. A mental condition that is marked by a mix of schizophrenia symptoms, such as hallucinations and delusions, and mood disorder symptoms, like you were saying, such as depression, mania, and a milder form of mania called hypomania. Hallucinations involve seeing things or hearing voices that others don't observe. Delusions often involve believing things that are not real or not true. The two types of schizoaffective disorders, both of which include some symptoms of schizophrenia, are bipolar type, which includes bouts of hypomania or mania, and sometimes major depression, and depressive types, which includes only major depressive bouts. Ah, interesting. Yeah, see, I didn't even know that was a thing. That sounds absolutely brutal, too. So that sounds like it's almost, or it can be bipolar, or it have similar effects to bipolar disorder with the hallucinations added on, which is even worse. That's like bipolar disorder times 100, dude. That's like bipolar disorder with schizophrenia. It's like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder fucked and had a very horrifying little child that's now stuck in your head. Like, that is a fucking huge bummer, dude. Damn. It just gets worse. Well, and to be honest, like, these are the most common disorders, but they're far from being like the worst mental disorders. Like, that would be another really good stream. Okay, I got to write that one down too. Shit. Hold on. I'm going to forget it if I don't write it down. Because there is some really unfortunate mental health disorders out there. And shit, I just said there was another one that schizophrenia. There it is. Those would make for two interesting streams. But yeah, I appreciate you saying something too. That just gave me two really good stream ideas, Adamant. So thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, that's it. So yeah, the obsessive part of OCD seems like a fucking bummer too, right? I don't think it's as bad as schizoaffective disorder, right? Having the bipolar disorder with extra hallucinations tacked on. I feel like that still takes the cake in my book of the absolute worst disorders, but that would still be a real bummer, right? To just be walking around and having images of driving your car into crowds of people. I mean, I'll admit, sometimes I do imagine driving my car into certain people, but it's definitely not an OCD thing. It's more of just like that person pisses me off sometimes. And sometimes I occasionally think about running them over and kind of smile about it. But And then unpleasant sexual images, like, ooh, what do you think those are? Right? Like, if they're unpleasant, like, ugh, I don't even want to know. Then compulsive symptoms. OCD compulsions are repetitive behaviors that you feel driven to do. These repetitive behaviors or mental acts are meant to reduce anxiety related to your obsessions or prevent something bad from happening. But taking part in the compulsions brings no pleasure and may offer only limited relief from anxiety. You may make up rules or rituals to follow that help control your anxiety when you are having obsessive thoughts. These compulsions are beyond reason and often don't relate to the issue they're intended to fix. As with obsessions, compulsions usually have themes such as washing and cleaning, checking, counting, ordering, following a strict routine, demanding reassurance. So, some examples of compulsion symptoms include hand washing until your skin becomes raw, checking doors over and over again to make sure they're locked, checking the stove over and over again to make sure it's off. I could probably use that compulsion disorder because there's been a couple times I leave the stove on. Counting in certain patterns, silently repeating a prayer, word, or a phrase, trying to replace a bad thought with a good thought, arranging your canned goods to face the same way. So severity varies. OCD usually begins in the teens or young adult years, but it can start in childhood. Symptoms usually begin over time and tend to vary in how serious they are throughout your life. The types of obsessions and compulsions you have also can change over time. Symptoms generally get worse when you are under greater stress, including times of transition and change. OCD, usually thought to be a lifelong disorder, can have mild to moderate symptoms or be so severe and time consuming that it becomes disabling, debilitating. But I was going to say them both at the same time. So there's your rundown of obsessive compulsive disorder. Uh, Turns out there are common types are breaking down by like the theme that they kind of follow. There's cleaning and contamination based obsessive compulsive disorder. Symptoms of that include constantly fearing exposure to germs, body fluids, toxic substances, viruses, or other things that can make you sick. Constantly feeling dirty or unclean, either physically or mentally. Avoiding possible sources of contamination. Feeling compelled to clean or get rid of items you consider dirty, even if they aren't dirty. Engaging in specific rituals around cleaning or washing, such as washing your hands or scrubbing a surface, and repeatedly asking others to check for contamination on your own body or in areas you consider dirty. There's another symmetry and ordering based OCD. Symmetry related OCD is more than preferring things to be neat or orderly. It is driven by a fear that certain objects or actions lack symmetry. Someone with this type of OCD may spend a lot of time trying to get things just right. Symptoms include feeling an extreme need for symmetry or specific organization in items, feeling compelled to arrange items until they feel just right, feeling incomplete when items aren't lined up exactly, engaging in counting rituals such as needing to count to a specific number a certain number of times, engaging in organizing rituals or having specific ways of aligning objects, believing something bad will happen if you don't organize things in the right way, and needing your actions to be symmetrical. For example, if you wash your left hand, you must also wash your right. And here's the forbidden thoughts level of OCD. We all have thoughts that enter our minds without warning, and most of us can let them pass through our minds without getting stuck on them. But for someone with forbidden, intrusive thoughts, these thoughts may be graphic or offensive, and they are not able to control them. They may develop a lot of shame or anxiety around their thoughts. There is a personality disorder called obsessive compulsive personality for a person to have the two disorders. Ah, yeah, sure. Okay. So yeah, that was kind of what we're reading about. You can have obsessive or just compulsive or have the two together, which would be OCD, right? I think I'm getting that right. Like I think that's what it was kind of saying, right? But you could have just an obsessive disorder or the compulsive disorder, which is kind of crazy. I never knew that. It seems like it would be a bummer to have either of them, but if I had to choose, I would go with the compulsive disorder over obsessive disorder if I had to actually choose to have one of them. Having them both at the same time would be horrible. And as far as the different types are concerned, here we go. They only had 4 types here: hoarding and forbidden thoughts, which we'll get into, but symmetry, ordering, and cleaning and contamination. Forbidden thoughts, that definitely seemed like the worst, right? So here is some of the symptoms of it. Was frequently having unwanted intrusive thoughts that may be sexual, violent, or religious in nature. That's kind of wild, too. That sex and violence and religion? is in there as a third one. That's kind of wild. I wonder why that is. Feeling extreme guilt, shame, or anxiety about your unwanted thoughts. Constantly questioning your sexual orientation or sexual desires because of your thoughts. Constantly worrying that you'll act on your intrusive thoughts and seeking reassurance that you won't act on them. Constantly feeling that you have intrusive thoughts makes you a bad person and seeking reassurance that you're not. Frequently worrying that you'll harm yourself or someone else without meaning to and reviewing your actions to make sure you haven't. Feeling compelled to hide things you could use as a weapon. Feeling fixated on religious ideas that feel blasphemous or wrong. Feeling like your forbidden thoughts have caused bad things to happen to you or others. Using mental rituals to prevent or get rid of your thoughts. And then there's the hoarding type of obsessive compulsive disorder. Symptoms of that include feeling compelled to buy multiples of the same item, even if you don't need that many. Feeling compelled to check or review your possessions. Constantly worrying that throwing something away could bring harm to you or someone else, or feeling a need to collect a certain number of items to protect you or someone else from harm. Fearing throwing away an important item by accident. Not throwing away an item because you fear exposure to germs on the item itself. Feeling anxious or incomplete if you can't find an item, accidentally lost it, or threw it away. So OCD does sound like it's fairly common. We kind of already went over that. So that's OCD in a nutshell, right? And that kind of completes our five main our five most common mental health disorders in America right now, or at least five of the top mental health disorders: major depression, generalized anxiety disorder, post traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder. Um, and it's kind of interesting that those are the more common ones because I very commonly hear people say that they have that disorder, and not meaning like they actually have it, but more just like, oh my God, I'm OCD, or oh my God, I'm so depressed right now. Obviously, hopefully we've learned through this stream that it's a little bit different than that. It's, more than, it's like those things that you think are OCD dialed up to 11. OCD seems like it would be a bummer. Again, I think that bipolar disorder would probably be the worst out of all of them. If there's one that I mean, I wouldn't want to have any of these, but bipolar disorder would be the one that would freak me out the most for sure. Or that one would suck the most. It just seems like the most, um, unenjoyable out of all of them. And that's saying a lot because they all seem very unenjoyable, right? But so yeah, I might make this stream again and cover, because there was like another five really common mental health disorders that were about the same, more or less, that had the same numbers as far as commonality in America. Might do a second stream on that if that sounds entertaining. Although Adamant gave me a lot of good ideas for future streams, mental health streams. So I'll probably be doing some of those too, but we'll see how this video does on YouTube. If you catch this video on YouTube and you like it, definitely hit me up in the comment section and let me know, and I can do a part 2 of this most common health disorders. But that about covers it for today. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Cutie Pie, I hope you had a good time. Adamant, I hope that you enjoyed the stream too. Thanks again for tuning in, by the way. I really appreciate every time you come in and throw some knowledge down and have a conversation with me. That's always enjoyable. It kind of helps the stream go by a lot faster too when I have somebody to talk about, particularly on topics like this. When you're throwing information out there, that always is helpful too. Next time I might throw up, tomorrow or tonight, I might actually put up the stream again up here. So whenever I put these videos on YouTube, people on YouTube can actually see the information too, because you always got useful information that you add to the chat. So I appreciate you coming in and watching the show and throwing out that useful information, giving me ideas for future streams. If anybody else was watching this live, I definitely appreciate you coming in and showing your support as well. And if you check this out on YouTube too, thanks for watching the video on YouTube. If you like the content and enjoyed the video, then please leave a like and subscribe, and consider coming and watching this with me live. So you can come in and chat with me in the comment section as well, because that was kind of the whole point of doing it live, was so I can have people to chat with while I'm doing this. If you like the mental health related topics, I do them every Monday, usually at 7. Today was 7:15. I was actually considering even switching that to 8 p.m. So if you just look on my Twitch channel, I'll always have the schedule right, so you know exactly what day I'm planning on or what time I'm planning on doing it. I was thinking about doing it more at 8 or 9 because last time I did that, I got 2 or 3 more views. So I might do that. But next Monday is Mental Health Mondays again, and I'll be doing EMDR therapy. So I got a whole 2-hour stream set around EMDR. I actually got my light bar above me, behind me, above and behind me, right there at the top. Oh, see, right here is my EMDR light bar. So we'll be busting that guy out and showing you how it works, showing you how EMDR works. I need to get my beard all trimmed up. My beard is fucked up. It's all kinds of crazy. I need to get my cheeks shaved. Mustache is all looking crazy. Let's get out of this. Make me tiny again. Okay. And then tomorrow, if you're interested in scary stuff, I'll be doing the most haunted places in the world tomorrow. So I got a list of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the most haunted places in the world, and a whole bunch of really cool videos on that stream that I got set up. So if you like scary shit, then tune in for that. And if not, then I will see you guys next Mental Health Monday. Next time I see you, Adamant. Until next time I see you, you have a wonderful rest of your night, man. And thanks again for tuning into the channel. I always appreciate it. And to anybody else who watched this, I really appreciate your support. You guys all have a wonderful rest of your night tonight, and I will see you next time. Peace.